love it. This is great.
And you can see exactly how long the commercials were.
Yeah,
because
no
when the theme's over,
this is exactly the same thing, right?
Each song's apparently from until.
It's incredible. You've got the. Was it you?
I wasn't yet. I was with small child. Okay, herzlich willkommen, welcome all zum Panel mit Brian. Just for explanation sake, again, I will do the bilingual version, so basically give a short summary of what Brian said in German, and you will of course completely trust me to say exactly what you said.
You have my full trust.
Excellent.
Full trust.
Excellent. Auch die Erinnerung, wenn jemand einen englischen Satz hat, den er gerne in Skeletor-Stimme gesagt haben möchte, hier vorne liegen 2 Zettel und ein Stift, jederzeit gerne hingehen und dazu schreiben. Am Ende des Panels wird er sie dann raushauen. James, for you too, of course. If there is a sentence you've always wanted Skeletor to say, here are 2 sheets of paper and a pen, and you can add the sentence, and then Brian will deliver it to the best of his ability.
To the best of my ability.
Yes. And that will be just perfect, I guess.
Well, I'll try. I'm a little rough.
However,
little
did
croaky.
that happen?
I don't know. It was a long night, however.
Okay, yeah. Well, yeah, die Nacht war kurz. Okay, so to start off, very basic and simple starting question, sehr einfache Anfangsfrage, wie er eigentlich in die Produktion und an die Rolle gekommen ist. How did you get to play Skeletor on the 2000X cartoon? How did that happen?
It was a very long process. The auditions had come down the wire. My agent had given me a call and said, guess what? They're going to be auditioning for He-Man. I was quite excited. They send the process where they give what you call sides, just sample pieces of scripts for each different characters. So it was the full range of characters we were able to audition for. So I auditioned for Ram Man, Skeletor, King Randor, Buzz Off, King Hiss. There was a range of characters. I think it was probably about 10 different characters of which I'd auditioned for originally. And it came back down the pipe about 2 weeks after the audition that they wanted to hear me for Skeletor. And I was quite excited, obviously. I came back and, would you believe, 4 callbacks to come back. And so, you know, it was a long process of 4 callbacks. And it came down to myself and another gentleman in Vancouver, Canada, by the name of Lee Tokar. And I guess there was a long deliberation. 4 months had passed. I basically thought it had been cast and I wasn't one of the choices for it. And then my agent gave me a phone call. And sure enough, I had booked Skeletor. So thus the backflips begin. You know, I was quite excited. So it was.
Ja. Also die sehr kurze deutsche Version. Außer es schreien jetzt alle, brauchen wir gar nicht. Aber das können wir machen. Ne? Also es war ein monatelanger Castingprozess, der ganz klassisch mit einem Anruf des Agenten begann. Es gibt eine neue He-Man-Show, du sollst vorsprechen. Für 10 verschiedene Rollen hat er vorgesprochen mit solchen Testseiten, die so typische Charaktersätze geben. Und ist dann eben über 4 sogenannte Callbacks, also wo man sozusagen nochmal kommt und nochmal was anderes dann liest, immer weiter sozusagen, also Achtelfinale, Viertelfinale, Halbfinale, hochgehört, ja, like in the World Cup Soccer, ne? Quarterfinals, Semifinals and then the huge last step. Und hat sich dann eben gegen einen letzten Mitkonkurrenten Lee Tokar durchsetzen können und die Rolle des Skeletor gekriegt. Obwohl nach dem letzten Callback dann wirklich Monate ins Land ging, wo er gedacht hat, okay, die Sache ist schon längst erledigt und er hat es nicht gekriegt. Und dann umso überraschender und schöner war es dann, als dieser Anruf kam. And between you getting the role and then the first actual
record session,
yeah, how much time was that?
From booking it, we went into recording, I think it was 2 weeks after they had cast the role. And then what they did was what they call an open table casting. On the first pilot, it was like, was it 2 hours or whatever? Because it was the three episodes together, which made the one. And we had completed that. Thereafter, they wanted to start getting the secondary characters auditioned for. So Predominantly, they would audition through the core cast that was already selected, and that's when I ended up. I booked Buzz Off, King Hiss, Ceratus, Squeeze, Web Store. I think there's another one in there too, Keldor, and of course Skeletor. So it was a fun process. It was interesting because at times I was able to have scenes with myself because some of my characters would be meeting up with each other, and having the chance to do that was a lot of fun. So it was an amazing experience all in all.
Also denn die erste Aufnahmesession 2 Wochen nach dem Casting, nachdem er gebucht wurde dafür. Und das war dann nochmal, bei dem sie gesagt haben, wir haben jetzt die Hauptrollen besetzt und gucken, ob wir innerhalb der Hauptrollen auch noch die Nebenrollen besetzt kriegen. Also dass jeder noch weitere Stimmen kriegt. Das nochmal an einem runden Tisch gemeinsam verteilt. Und so kam es dann, dass er eben noch die anderen Stimmen, die dann dazu kamen, stückweise dann immer bekommen hat. Eben der Buzz-Off, der ja schon in der ersten Staffel war, Webster kam ja erst ein bisschen später, King Hiss, Ceratus, der Kollege und Squeeze, der Schlangenmensch. I was just trying to remember the image, what Ceratus actually looked like.
Big snake man,
But that was Squeeze.
Squeeze too, with the long arms,
Yeah, and Ceratus was some...
Caligar.
Yes, the Subterranean race. I knew one of the Subterranean races,
Nice.
at least.
Nice.
Okay. How much fun was it to work with your brother on that?
I can't tell you because it was amazing. We very seldom have a chance to work together. I have 3 brothers. Well, there's 3 of us in total, and my other 2 brothers are both voice actors as well. So seldom do we get a chance to work on the same project together. I can probably count on one hand over my 20 years of voice acting. I have that amount of shows that we actually have worked together on. So it was my brother Paul, and he played Manny Faces, Trap Jar, and I had one other character as well. I can't remember, it leaves me, but excellent experience.
So, good relationship there.
Very good relationship there, yeah.
Excellent.
It was very nice.
Also hatte auch viel Freude, dass er mit seinem Bruder Paul bei dem Projekt zusammenarbeiten konnte, weil die beiden, obwohl sie beide schon seit vielen Jahren in der Synchronbranche tätig sind, halt selten die Gelegenheit haben, bei derselben Serie zu arbeiten. Und das war jetzt eine dieser seltenen schönen Gelegenheiten, wo das ging. So, back to the recording sessions. Again, was it mostly this classic, you speak your lines and then it's all cut together, or did you also record in dialogue really with the other characters?
It was with the other characters. It's very much like a radio play would be. So there's full cast, and the director will set us up, and they'll open the session saying, okay, we're going to do a run from line 1 to line 24. And you'll do that segment of dialogue, and then afterwards they'll go back and then they'll groom and do what they say pickups for things that need to be redirected. And sometimes you'll get through on a first run, but sometimes it would take many as 5 or 6 runs of that section until they have what they want. And sometimes it's not so much that they want, it's not the performances they like. Sometimes they like to have alternatives for the animators. So we'll run certain scenes multiple times so they have variation for the animators to approach it.
Okay, also zu den Aufnahmesessions, weil ja in Deutschland erinnern wir uns, wenn wir von Frau Körting hören, Hörspiele oft Einzelaufnahme und dann geixt. Bei Ihnen war es so, dass Sie tatsächlich wie bei einem klassischen Radio-Hörspiel relativ an dem einen Tisch zusammensaßen, dann wurde eine Vorgabe gemacht, die und die Segmente werden jetzt in einem Stück durchgemacht, also diese Szene. Und dann wird nur noch mal, wenn einzelne Stellen anders sein sollen oder wenn Fehler passiert sind, werden die als Pickups, also einzelne Nachaufnahmen wiederholt. Oder es wird die ganze Szene noch mal ein bisschen variiert, falls der Regisseur sagt, ich möchte für die Animation noch eine Variante haben, zum Beispiel in einer anderen Geschwindigkeit oder mit ein bisschen anderer Betonung drin, je nachdem, dass die dann später bei der Animation auch entsprechend arbeiten können und ein bisschen Auswahl haben.
Also, I mean, one of the interesting things with the record was we were recording in Vancouver, full cast, but our directors were in Los Angeles. And one of the main directors, we had Michael Donovan directing as the house director in Vancouver, but the actual clients who were calling the real shots and kind of directing him as to what they wanted would be calling in from Los Angeles. And often Ian Richter, who is directing us, would be calling from his car. And he would be driving on the LA freeways. and we could hear cars and things like that in our headphones as we're driving, doing these records. And sometimes he would cut out and come back in, and it was somewhat of a challenge sometimes, catching all the direction with Ian as he was driving to and fro his work in Los Angeles. So it was quite interesting. And Dean Stefan also. We'd sometimes Ian, Dean Stefan, and Mike Cardle would come in and fly into Vancouver and actually be in studio with us also. But predominantly it was, as they say, online from Los Angeles.
Okay, also die Sondersituation noch dazu bei diesen Aufnahmen, dass die gesamte Schauspieltruppe in Vancouver in Kanada im Studio saß und auch den Michael Donovan, ihren lokalen Regisseur, also der vor Ort war, immer dabei hatten, aber dass eben die weiteren Executives, die da was zu sagen hatten, also vor allem ist da der Ian Richter, der ist ja bei Mattel der Zuständige gewesen, der da auch Brandmanagement gemacht hat. Die haben sich per Handy dann einfach zuschalten lassen, sodass sie da bei den Schauspielern auf den Kopfhörern waren. Und Ian war also oft in seinem Auto unterwegs, während er da mitgehört hat. Und entsprechend hatten dann also auch die Schauspieler sehr viel Freude am LA-Verkehr und allem, was so drumherum passierte. I guess it must be quite nice if you do your take perfectly and then say, "Oh, watch out, you idiot!" And no, I was talking about the car.
This is funny. This actually happened sometimes when he would go through and also he would say something because he was in a moment behind the wheel, and we were like, "Okay, what was that for us or what?" Yeah, very funny.
Tja, ich dachte es mir doch, dass dann Verkehrsansagen und Beschimpfungen von anderen Fahrern zwischendurch reinkommen und die Schauspieler ein bisschen verwirren. But yeah, all a nice challenge then.
Yeah.
And of course, when they started the casting, I guess because of the previous cartoon, the Filmation cartoon, they had quite a clear image of what they wanted their voices to sound like.
And that's important, I think. They had sent us CDs and DVDs of the original series, and they gave me the voice print of Alan Oppenheimer, who played the original Skeletor. And what they wanted was something that followed what he had done, but they wanted to take it into a darker place. But obviously not too dark. They didn't want to scare away the children demographic, So it was a fine line between them allowing me to go really deep and evil and trying to keep it also in that higher register that Alan Oppenheimer had originally printed for his voice print. I often was, from the very first episode, first probably 5 or 6 episodes, they were really pushing me to kind of stay in the lighter range, where I had an intent to really try and push him a little bit darker. And if you listen between the first episode to the final season where we were, you'll notice that Skeletor actually did get a little bit darker, and I just did it little bit by little bit as we went along.
Also, genau, die Frage eben nach der Skeletor-Stimme, weil es ja eben die Vorgaben, oder in dem Sinne, es gab ja schon mal eine Interpretation davon durch Alan Oppenheimer und eben die Ansage, ja, das war auch die Vorlage, die gegeben wurde und bei der es hieß, das soll die Richtung bleiben, es soll aber etwas düsterer, etwas mehr, I think you could call it a little more Christopher Nolan.
Very nice, yes.
Also mehr sozusagen, so wie Batman sich da mit Christopher Nolan entwickelt hat, mehr in diese Richtung gehen. Und Brian hat das auch mit Freude erfüllt und zwar so gut, dass wir dann gesagt haben, das ist jetzt zu düster, jetzt musst du es wieder ein bisschen heller und netter machen. Und, aber weil Brian ja ein cleverer Bursche ist, hat er dann eben im Verlauf der Serie so in ganz kleinen Schritten, dass man es nicht so merkt als Regisseur, das doch immer noch ein kleines bisschen düsterer hinbekommen, sodass man also zwischen dem Piloten, dem Anfang, wo es noch sehr hell und freundlich, wo es noch verhältnismäßig nahe an dieser helleren Stimme ist, bis zum Abschluss gegen die Snake Men, wo er dann ganz unten angekommen ist, immer düsterer wurde. Yes, and did you need any other background info, or did you get it, or were you such an avid He-Man fan that you knew everything anyway?
It was fortunate that I was a fan of the show before this casting. Thus, when the audition had come up, I was quite excited because in my younger years with the original He-Man, I don't know, I find most people are very big fans of the original, and I think that's kind of the purest way, and it's I loved that original print. So having a chance to do what I got to do was what I call my time in the sandbox. You know, it was terrific.
Ja, also als Fan der originalen Show war es natürlich dann nochmal besonders schön, dabei mitwirken zu können und ja sozusagen nochmal in der eigenen Kindheit und der eigenen Sandkiste sozusagen ein bisschen zu spielen, eben das machen zu können, was ja sowieso der Beruf ist und jetzt eben auch noch bei etwas, wo man auch diese persönliche Verbindung dazu hat. Ja.
It makes it much more interesting when, I mean, if you have that pre-knowledge base on a show. I mean, there's so many shows that they've done revivals with or whatever the case, but sometimes I've been given the chance to audition for something like My Little Pony, for instance, and I didn't really have a pre-knowledge of that show going into it, so I had to, I'm sorry, but I studied. So it was funny because I remember going online and watching it, and I was like, wow, this is different. This is very different, and you bring yourself up to speed with everything, and eventually that you kind of get on board with what is already going on.
Ja, also eben bei der Show war es dann besonders angenehm oder leicht, sich da auch eben wieder reinzuwerkeln. Also wenn er zum Beispiel bei Mein kleines Pony zum Casting ging oder da mitsprechen, das war dann doch eine etwas andere Welt, die ihm auch nicht vorher schon bekannt war und wo man dann eben doch erstmal guckt und sich erstaunt fragt, ach, das gibt's also auch. Und um dann eben auch den richtigen Ton zu treffen und in dem Stil arbeiten zu können, wie es dann für diese Show notwendig ist.
Wie hat ihr denn da gesprochen?
Did you, for the My Little Pony, which roles were that?
Well, it's there's a feature film which has just been created, and I'm unfortunately not allowed to talk about it. But I do play a villain on the show, and it should be in theaters. Probably, I'm assuming that it'll probably be in theaters by next summer, because it's amazing. Is anyone here familiar with Ratchet and Clank?
Ratchet and Clank, yeah.
A little bit, because we just had that in the theaters as well, and that was another one of those shows where I didn't have a whole lot of knowledge pre to what it was, and I had to study up on that too to kind of get myself in place. And that is in, I don't know if it's still in theaters now or if it's passed through or not, but same kind of story, you know, as far as the process that I had to go through.
Yeah.
Must be Discord.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that?
It's Discord.
For Ratchet and Clank?
Character?
Oh, I played Dallas Wanamaker, the Drek computer, and one of the evil minions of the bad guy. Originally, I was the Sylvester Stallone character as well, but Sylvester Stallone came in and wanted to be part of the project, and they took my part from me and gave it to him.
But beaten by the original is not too bad.
No, that happens a lot with the things that go to feature film. They may call you in what they call to do a scratch track until they find, they shop for a celebrity that they can put in place of that role.
Okay.
And that actually happened with me with My Little Pony as well. Although I ended up in the film, I was originally the main bad guy of this film, and now they have a celebrity in place to do that too. So you have to take it with a grain of salt. You know, sometimes these things happen, and you can't take it personally.
Ja, also der kleine Exkurs in die Filmgeschichte in den Staaten, dass eben auch da oft Schauspieler, Synchronsprecher erstmal sozusagen als Grundlage für die Rolle wirklich genommen werden, aber gleichzeitig guckt das Studio, ob es noch irgendeine Hollywood-Berühmtheit, jemand anderen findet, der bereit wäre, das auch zu tun, und dann kann man eben an der Stelle auch wieder rausgeschoben werden zu einem späteren Zeitpunkt. Aber zumindest hat man dann schon mal ein bisschen Geld dran verdient. At least they pay you for the scratch track.
Absolutely, yeah. You have the same contract, so it's okay. I smile. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, after those little detours, of course, back to the He-Man thing. I know that Ian Richter in particular, because Dean Stefan told me, was very passionate about the whole thing himself.
Very much, yeah.
And so was there a lot of basically pre-talk and going through details and things and characters before you started recording?
Very much.
Or did he just say, okay, offer me something and then I'll make something out?
No, we had DVDs and these tracks of the original voice print from the original series. Each character on the show was given one of these packages. And after we'd gone through our study, we would meet in the green room at the recording studio at Coco Studios in Vancouver. And Dean would make a point of being there. He would, Gary Hartle, and Dean Stefan, they were always, for the big conversations, they would show up.
Okay.
And we would talk and get each other in the same headspace, been on the same page. it made the process go far faster, being able to have a really solid knowledge of what they wanted instead of guessing at what they wanted, you know. And it's amazing. Some projects that I work on, it's very much a guessing game, and you wish that there were more precursor to them giving you some knowledge as to what they want. So this was a pleasure for me in that there was no mistake what they wanted. You know, I knew exactly because they were so informative with everything that was on the table.
Ja, also nochmal sozusagen zurück zu der Frage auch, wie viel Vorarbeit vor der eigentlichen Aufnahme tatsächlich stattfand, weil es teilweise ja wirklich Situationen gibt, in denen die Schauspieler ihren Text hingeschmissen kriegen, dann sind von mir aus noch ein paar Regieanweisungen drin und dann so, mach mal und wir sagen dann was. Und in dem Fall war dann also tatsächlich, dass sich auch die aus den Staaten, also unter anderem eben Dean Stefan, der den Story Editor gemacht hat, also der die ganze Geschichte insgesamt zusammengehalten hat, dann auch wirklich rübergeflogen sind, gesagt haben, wir setzen uns dazu, bei diesen wichtigen Grundgesprächen und Sachen, da sind wir dabei, sprechen das gemeinsam durch, stellen sicher, dass wir alle genau wissen, was passieren soll, wie es werden soll. Und Brian sagte dazu eben, und das ist sehr angenehm für den Schauspieler, wenn man eben nicht so im Trüben fischt und rumraten muss, was könnte es denn sein, was die hier wollen und wie sollte das denn sein, sondern dass man wirklich recht klar weiß, okay, das und das ist es, was dabei rauskommen soll, und dann kann man sich da auch sehr gut drauf einstellen und es auch sehr viel besser auf den Punkt eben tatsächlich abliefern in der Einzelaufnahme. Okay, and then the recording started. Of course, the stupid fanboy questions. Do you remember any particularly funny glitches, stupid moments that happened? Yeah.
There were many. I wish I had some kind of reel of the outtakes, because every record session there would be numerous bloopers, outtakes that obviously they could not use in the final product. But one in particular, Gary Chalk was one of the characters on the show, and he was. They had a burp that needed to be done, and sometimes they go to sound libraries for that kind of thing. And he wanted to do this live on mic like that, so he had a can of Coke and goes up to the mic and he burps, but everything came out. You know, these mics that we use, they're about $3,500. You know, that's a very expensive mic, and whoosh, all over the microphone. I remember looking over to the engineer right away, and he's just. Yeah, so you never know what you're going to get in any one record session. It's,
Authenticity.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
Ja, also so von den kleinen Missgeschicken und Versprechern und Dingen, was passiert ist. Also es gab immer eine ganze Reihe, und eben das Gary Chalk hat so den Vogel abgeschossen, weil einer seiner Figuren eben einmal rülpsen musste und er gesagt hat, das macht er selber, das kommt nicht aus der Library, das kriegt er hin, hat eine Flasche Cola weggeäxt und dann leider beim Rülpsen die ganze Flasche Cola wieder produziert und einmal über das ganze Mikro geschossen, das so seinen $3.500 Kaufpreis hat, was eben dann Sound Engineer, also den Tontechniker, der dann hinten schon zusammengebrochen ist, mit seinem... But they did have a replacement ready, right?
They do, yeah. The Neumann mics are very expensive, and the engineers don't like you throwing up on them, generally. Rule of thumb.
Yeah. I guess you didn't have to do it again afterwards.
No, they figured, we'll go to the libraries. I think we're okay.
They couldn't even take this one then?
No, it distorted the mic.
I thought perhaps there was a bit of good sound before the mic.
There may have been some precursor sound that they may have been able to edit something in there too, but the finished product was a little bit
different,
overwhelming.
Okay. Yeah. Overwhelming. Okay.
Or perhaps
also sie konnten diesen wundervollen Flüssigrülpser dann noch nicht mal in der Show verwenden, haben ihn das aber dann nicht nochmal machen lassen, haben sich dann darauf eingelassen. And how soon did you find out when the show was then unfortunately and sadly cancelled? Was that a decision
this
that you heard about?
A long time it took for that final word of saying, okay, it's cancelled now. We'd finished the third season, and I was working on doing Barbie cartoons. it's the same client does Barbie that was doing He-Man. So I was often, when I was in the studio working on doing hit shows, I would be talking with the same producers, and they would often tell us that it was going to happen again. We were shooting to go again, but they were tossed up because they wanted to know whether or not it would be a better way to go and do a Tila series first. And I think that went back and forth for a while. In the long run, I don't know whatever happened. It slowly faded out.
And a Tila series.
Mm-hmm. They were that was the toss-up, was to go season 4. I'm not sure if everyone's aware, but there was also one script that wasn't recorded at the end of season 3, and
when the Snake
at
Men were
PowerCon it was
defeated,
auctioned
and
off.
then, they made a comic of it, didn't they?
Yep.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's floating around, and then there was rumors that maybe we would at least go in and finish that final episode.
Mm-hmm.
As to why, I'm not sure, because the fanship had been so strong all along, and I think a lot of the people on the cast were shaking their head as to why aren't you doing this, because it will be successful.
Ja, also es war auch für die Schauspieler lange Zeit noch so diese Frage, ob die Serie nach dem Ende der Snake Man Staffel aufhört oder nicht. Und war, also zumindest diese dann nicht vertonte Folge, da war eigentlich lange im Raum, dass das vielleicht doch noch passiert. Und letzten Endes, also so vom Feedback, was es gab, oder dem Erfolg, was man mitbekommen hat, war es offensichtlich nicht ganz nachzuvollziehen, warum es dann eben also da an der Stelle beendet wurde, warum man nicht wenigstens dann den Storybogen noch fertig ziehen konnte. Und aber yeah, that was Mattel's decision, and I guess
Ultimately,
and I guess it had to do with figure sales.
That was the problem. From what I heard, with the distribution, there was a lot of mess ups, because what they were selling to, especially the big bulk shops, were getting all the He-Mans and the good guy characters. They weren't getting enough of the Skeletors and some of the minions that they were hoping for, because they were always first off the shelf apparently. And since they were so under supply, it's been rumored that was where things went wrong. And in most cases, for any series to be successful and continue on, it really does rely on the toy sales to progress it into the future. Once the toy sales go down, in often cases, the series in any case will come to an end. Just a shame.
Also auch der Verdacht, der ja generell so ist, dass es eben tatsächlich, Mattel hat mit den Spielzeugen nicht mehr genug verdient, hat gesagt, okay, dann schneiden wir das alles ab. Und also auch wieder dieses klassische Gerücht, das man schon gehört hat, dass die Verteilung, also die Anzahl der Figuren, wie sie gepackt wurden in den Cases und was dann an die Händler gegangen ist, dass das wohl nicht das war, was die Händler sich gewünscht haben, die halt mehr sozusagen auch böse Nebencharaktere, Triclops, Trapjaw, Beastman, Evelyn und so weiter hätten verkaufen können, weil die sofort vergriffen waren und stattdessen dann halt mit 40 He-Man-Varianten im Laden saßen, die sich dann nicht ganz so gut verkauft haben. Aber das ist natürlich jetzt wieder nur die Gerüchte, die man so hört über das Ganze. Yes, and so of course, if there was any kind of continuation of the show, of direct-to-DVD or something else, of course you'd be the first person back in the studio to record again, right?
Yeah, I would hope to be. You never know with a lot of these. Sometimes they kick off a new series and they want to recast. They'll oftentimes maybe go to a different province or something, and they'll lay down other auditions just to see what voice prints may be out there, as to whether it would be better progressive that way, or but I would say in most cases they would go to the old cast, and if they can get full circle that cast together again, that's the direction they would go.
Yeah. And the cast would be willing, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not just for the money,
No,
for the love of it.
Well, for the love. Well, I think there was compared to a lot of other shows, a lot of them. I'm quite close with the cast in general. We work with each other on many occasions on other projects here and there, and there was a really solid camaraderie among the cast, and I think there would be a much love to jump in and go another round, but one can never get their hopes too high.
Ja, also wie es auch bei den deutschen Schauspielern zum Teil, wie wir es da schon gehört haben, gerade von den Filmation-Leuten, auch hier, die Schauspieler wären sofort wieder am Start, würden sofort weiter aufnehmen und weiter spielen, weil sie auch unabhängig davon von der He-Man-Serie, auch bei anderen Serien, bei denen sie zusammenarbeiten, sich immer sehr gut verstanden haben und sehr viel Freude bei dieser Arbeit hatten und das sehr gerne gemacht haben. I just had another very nice connecting question ready, and I just slipped from my
It just
mind.
went bing.
Yes. Must be, oh yes, and I remember it now.
Okay.
Because you told me that you were quite a fan of the original show too, and
Yep.
you liked He-Man and stuff back from the day. So when you first met Alan Oppenheimer in person, then what was that like?
It was interesting. I have sometimes I'm a little wary of meeting other celebrity or stuff like this because especially if I really respect their work, and then they don't come over as being so personable or so nice. You're not sure as to. You're just like, oh, I wish I never met him, kind of thing. So, and I wasn't apprehensive with Alan when I first met him because he exudes a kindness. He's an amazing man to chat with. He's got such a resume within his industry between what he did on He-Man, obviously, and a mess of stuff. I mean, he's almost like a Mel Blanc in a lot of ways because he worked on so many shows. So meeting him for the first time was an honor, and I'm glad it was a really positive experience. He was just so open and welcoming, and it was interesting to trade stories of his experience of what he went through. And it was so completely different back in his time when they first did their audition process from what I went through. So comparing our stories was an amazing experience.
And just to make sure, but the first meeting was after you had worked on
Yes.
on the He-Man show.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I had heard his voice, and they'd sent me all kind of voice prints of him, but never ever had the chance until PowerCon in Los Angeles. It was the first time I met him.
Ja, I saw the advert, so.
Oh,
Ja.
that was fun.
Also ich habe da natürlich gleich mal nachschieben müssen, Alan Oppenheimer dann zu treffen, wie das dann für ihn war. Also es ist immer so ein bisschen das zweischneidige Schwert, wenn man jemanden das erste Mal persönlich trifft, dessen Arbeit man toll findet und von dem man so grundsätzlich begeistert war, dass dann eben die Sorge besteht, okay, wenn der jetzt vielleicht nicht so freundlich oder als Mensch nicht so oder die Chemie nicht stimmt und dann denkt man sich, oh je, hätte ich besser nicht getroffen, dann hätte ich weiter einfach nur dieser, oh, was eine tolle Arbeit. Und Alan ist dann eben jemand, der von vornherein so freundlich und entgegenkommend und offen da drauf zugeht und so eine warme Persönlichkeit einfach hat und gutherzig, dass es einfach sehr, sehr angenehm war, ihn zu treffen und dann eben auch Geschichten auszutauschen über die Arbeit an dieser Rolle, die sie da hatten und wie dann auch die Castingprozesse unterschiedlich waren damals bei ihm oder jetzt dann eben bei Brian, der ja diesen langen Castingweg hatte. So, is there any nice little tidbit that you talked about that you could share with us?
I'm trying to think in particular. It was interesting because his process from what I went through was much more basic. He had one shot at going into the studio and doing, but they loved it right away. And he also had multiple characters on that show. He played more than one. And it was interesting just hearing how much more simplified it was back then and how much more they complicate things these days when it comes to casting. You sit here and you're almost shaking your head, just like, wow, it was so much more difficult for me. I just, it was impressive hearing how, simplified it was, and thus I think it allows the actor to delve into the project more with not having so much complications with what is going on. But I understand it would be a more difficult process with what I had, just because of trying to find something that was going to follow something so popular.
Ja, also eben der Hauptunterschied war tatsächlich dann auch bei den Geschichten, wie sie diesen Casting-Prozess, wo er sagt, Alan hatte ein einziges Casting, hat die Stimme abgeliefert als Skeletor-Stimme, die waren begeistert davon und dann war die Sache geritzt und er hat ja dann auch eben diverse Rollen gesprochen, weil die damals ja auch nur zu viert die He-Man-Synchronisation gemacht haben. Und aber andererseits ist es natürlich klar, wenn man jetzt so eine gewisse Vorgabe hat, an der man arbeiten will und nicht einfach frei von der Leber weg, was macht der Schauspieler draus, dann ist es halt auch ein bisschen umständlicher, diese Rolle zu finden. And I guess, of course, that he watched the new show too. The 2000X cartoon, as it's always
I'm
called.
assuming he's seen it before, but...
So he didn't comment in any... Or did he comment on it or on your performance at all?
Not at all. There was no... it was more so me just paying homage the entire time. Oh, Alan, what a wonderful job you've done. But, you're also a powerful man. But, yeah, it was just a pleasure meeting him. So we've met a couple of times now, and Yeah, it's always a pleasure just having the chance to chat with him and just kind of learn of his experiences, especially when, through the 70s and whatnot, of some of the projects he'd worked on.
Ja, also über die Show haben sie sich dann zwar nicht ausgetauscht, aber eben inzwischen auch ein paar Mal getroffen und Brian sagt, also es ist halt einfach immer wieder eine wahnsinnig tolle Erfahrung, ihn mit all seiner Erfahrung und all seinem Wissen und was er da inzwischen angesammelt hat, zu treffen und sich einfach dann eben entsprechend zu unterhalten und immer mal wieder ein bisschen was Neues zu erfahren, was er dann zu erzählen hat. Okay, now I have asked so many questions, and I think there's probably a few questions in the audience too, and those poor people have waited for so long.
Absolutely. No, that sounds great.
Hogged all your time. So.
Ja, also der Cartoon hat ja leider nur 39 Folgen gehabt, aber tatsächlich, glaube ich, reicht es ja aus, dass so ein Voice-Actor wie der Brian neben den Zeichnern so einer Figur wie Skeletor ja das Leben einhaucht, der und so sein ganz spezielles eigenes Ding mit reingibt. Jetzt ist das sein Baby. Wie geht es ihm, wenn er, sage ich jetzt einmal, die deutsche Synchro hört? Hat er die schon einmal gehört oder auch im Spanischen oder sonstiges? Und wenn er die deutsche Synchro gehört hat, was hält er vom Klebisch seiner
Interpretation
von Skeletor?
Okay, gerne. So the question was basically, since of course the very first thing the character gets is your voice, then the animators come in and give it the images and the drawings and everything, and then it goes into the whole wide world and is adapted in different countries.
Yes.
And so the question was there, have you ever heard one of the synchronizations from other countries, the German one, for example?
I've heard the German, and I was so impressed. It's funny, the other Matthias, when we were driving in, there you are. He was kind enough to put in the CD for me when we were driving in of one of the dubs, and I was really quite surprised of how excellent the voice talent is. It's amazing. It was. It's funny when some of the stuff I've done, and I've heard the Spanish dubs, for instance, too. It's just so different, It's interesting to hear. But the German version is really strong, and there's excellent strength in the voice acting here. So I think you're all in good hands as far as voice acting goes in Germany. It's terrific.
Matthias, nur sichergestellt, das war auch Klebsch, ne, den du vorgespielt hast. Okay. Okay. Just wanted to make sure it was the correct show he put in.
Yeah, I hope.
Because we have so many different Skeletors. Yes, but so.
And I saw the today in the
cartoon show here. Yeah, okay.
Incredible.
Also das Feedback, Gott sei Dank, der Profi sagt auch, die Deutschen machen einen sehr guten Job bei der Synchronisation und der Klaus-Dieter Klebsch hat einen sehr, sehr guten Skeletor abgeliefert. Perhaps a little follow-up, since you watched a little of the cartoon show and heard a little on the car, were there any characters where you thought, oh, this one is particularly great or particularly awful?
Well, I found Tila was almost the same as what we did originally. I couldn't believe how close the voice match was. I'm curious, I'd like to know how the casting process was as to whether they were pushing for just like, no, bring your own thing to it, or were they asking to follow the same kind of guidelines? It'd be interesting to see what kind of process they go through here in Germany when they do a dub. Whatever the case, I found it quite impressive. Very, very watchable.
Ja. Auch die Tila fiel sehr, sehr positiv auf. And to satisfy your curiosity, perhaps a little, because I talked with the director, the German director of the show. And originally he said, yeah, of course, they get the English voices and they are supposed to stick very close to them. And they have their basically library of voice actors that they have and that they work with. And they usually say, okay, who is very close to that and who can deliver that very, very exactly the same.
Right.
They only sometimes, and then consciously go in a different direction, but most of the time they really try to stick to the original as closely as possible.
That is interesting.
Ja, also nur weil Brian dann selber gesagt hat, wie der Castingprozess in Deutschland da wäre, das wäre natürlich interessant, und da konnte ich dann kurz sagen, der Rainer Raschewski, der die deutsche Regie geführt hat, hat es mir verraten, dass sie also sehr nah an den englischen Stimmen bleiben sollten und wollten, und es gab eben nur vereinzelt Fälle, wo man sich bewusst entschieden hat, dann in eine andere Richtung zu gehen oder etwas Spezielles zu machen, also natürlich jetzt Anspielung ganz klar, dass eben nur bei Langer Rendor war, das war dann so eine bewusste Entscheidung, mir egal wie der im Englischen klingt, wir nehmen den Mann dafür. Und es hat ja zum Glück auch gut gepasst. Okay, further questions from you. Yes.
Of course, you're not allowed to tell us anything about the movie, but can you tell us the name of the character you play in the My Little Pony?
I can't tell. They won't. Now, well, the thing is, what they make before we literally are even allowed to go in and record, we have to sign what they call an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement, and they're particularly not allowed to talk about character names or anything storyline guided. We can't use anything on social media. It's the annoying thing, and sometimes I go to these conventions and I want to speak about some of the new stuff I'm doing, and it's very frustrating because once signing an NDA, and oftentimes when you're at conventions, people are filming, and then it goes up on YouTube or whatever the case is too. So I know a number of voice actors who have been fired from projects, and in some cases where they've actually printed the voice print and animated to that character too before the release was, and they pull the voice and get someone come in and revoice it just because of that. So it can be quite dangerous to unfortunately mention. I hate having to hold back information because I'd love to share it with you, but yeah, it's annoying when you're on the NDA.
Yeah, I guess the camera is placed just too obviously. So we can't pretend there is none.
All this technology.
Yeah. Okay,
but it was very fun. I think it'll be well liked. It's well put together, and they're really grooming it. So it's. Do you like the My Little Pony?
I collect them as well.
Oh, excellent! Yeah, yeah. It's.
But I can't imagine the character you might be. There's only one
he's an evil character, and he's
not a pony.
Not a pony.
No, I know.
I know. It's if I could only. Okay.
Thankfully,
I'm sorry.
Brian, evil master of ponies.
Yeah. It's the My Little Pony following. That's another thing all its own. That's incredible fanship there in the Brony worlds. I mean, everyone's seen the DVDs and the following. It's out of all shows, I've never seen quite a huge following as that. It's amazing.
Yes.
Can you recommend some of your other work for your German fans? What do you say?
Oh boy, it's I've been on. We've done work for Transformers, Fantastic Four. I'm not sure. There was a show called Max Steel ever come here? They got a little bit of that work on Max Steel, Dragon Ball Z. Is there any fans of anime in here? The anime fans like that? Death Note. I'll have to pull up my IMDb now as to what the names were there too. But I had multiple characters on that show.
What character were you on Death Note?
I'll have to pull up my IMDb and tell you because I can't remember all of it. It's Ikide. I can't remember his last name now.
But it is on the International Movie Database. So IMDb, also IMDb.com, yeah. You can find it. Because I checked myself. If your other credits are listed halfway completely, and on your own homepage it's too.
Do you have possibility of projecting? You could go onto my website and then play a demo reel, and you could all get a very good taste of what I've done. If you want to see it, you can.
I'd say immediately when we're finished, right? Because we have to.
I don't know if you have time or not.
And then we can't see it anymore.
You don't want to see me. You can see the work. I've just put together a reel of all my works, basically. Well, some of the more popular stuff that I've worked on, and I've cut it together for. It helps me for casting. So sometimes I get typecast into roles. A lot of the times, a lot of the casting agents, especially in Vancouver, they slate me for a lot of the deeper roles and stuff like that. And I've wanted to put something together that had a bit more range together so they could hear some of the higher range things and everything I did. And so I put that out on my website, and it's helped me not get so typecast to just bad guys.
Usual problem with all kind of acting.
Always,
the more successful you are at one thing, the more you get stuck in it. Ja. Also auch das klassische Problem, dass man eben doch dann in einer Schublade sozusagen so ein bisschen abgelegt ist. Okay, das ist der Schurke, der spricht böse Figuren und das immer. Und um dem eben ein bisschen entgegenzuwirken, jetzt in dem Fall hat Brian auf seiner Homepage mal ein kleines, sozusagen so ein Demo-Band, wenn man so will, veröffentlicht, wo eben auch andere Arbeiten dabei sind, sodass man also sieht, da ist auch noch etwas mehr Stimmenfähigkeit da, als immer nur diese eine Rolle. Und seitdem ist dann auch wieder eine etwas größere Verschiedenheit an Rollen im Angebot gewesen.
Yeah. But to answer your question with the Death Note, I think it was Ikide and there was another one of the mini Shinigami.
Bless you. Okay. Yeah, sorry. Okay, more questions. Yes. Ah, okay. Oh, okay, sorry. Yeah. Then, Jens.
Er hat es ja teilweise schon beantwortet. Ich allerdings, wir sind ja mit Passetti aufgewachsen oder Edgar Ott, das waren ja richtig tiefe Stimmen. Warum wollen die das in Amerika immer so hoch und quiekig haben? Das habe ich nicht verstanden.
Okay, the question was because in Germany, interestingly enough, when we had the first audio plays, because they came a bit before the cartoon, there was a very, I think you've heard an example of it, I don't know, but there was a very deep voice for Skeletor, and in some other projects, like in The Secret of the Sword as well. And the question was whether you had any idea why they wanted to keep the high pitch and go for the high pitch.
That's an excellent question because once this came on the table, before they'd given me this package with the DVD and Alan Oppenheimer's voice print, I had a feeling that maybe they were going to make this a little more darker than it was, than what they were going to go with original voice prints. So I had originally thought I was going to prepare something very deep because that's easier for my register to go to. And I guess about a week after I'd have the news and going back in for my callbacks, that's when I got the package, and then it was like, oh, okay, we're following that road now. It's going to be in that high range, and I don't want to say I was disappointed, but I was very excited and hoping to originally do a very deep, dark Skeletor that was maniacal and all of that, still within that package of that character. But I would love to have tried doing a deeper voice print.
What would that sound?
What would it sound like?
He-Man and the Masters of the Universe will finally be mine.
But it's interesting where we ended up. I guess the voice print I'm with, and I'm not sure if everyone in here has heard the English version of what I do, but what am I going to say?
Trapjaw, you metallurgical miscreant. Go to the Masters of the Universe. I will have Eternia, and the old Masters get rid of that menacing He-Man. I find that all of Eternia will finally be mine.
And note, it's especially astounding because most voice actors don't remember their line.
No, it's
for any time.
I found with this show that it's good to have a few lines in your back pocket because if we did it in 2001 and here I am today in 2016 in Germany, speaking with people, it's absolutely incredible.
Okay, aber jetzt.
Hi, I was just interested in the mechanics of the voiceover work. Like, how do you prep for that, especially the voice of Skeletor? It can be quite tasking with the laugh. I mean, you just did it right now.
Yeah.
But do you do anything to prepare, like, I don't know, TV?
Yeah.
Like, that's what I was interested in.
Excellent question, because it's any one show that I go out to do, I really want to have that pre-idea of what I'm getting myself into. With He-Man, Skeletor's voice for doing some sessions where we'd go 2 episodes in a day, and that would be 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. We get a quick little lunch break in between. So that's fairly tolling on the voice for a long period. And knowing that I'd be going in for long sessions, yes, I would do a vocal warm-up before going into session. And we were talking last night about elixirs for your voice to keep going through. There's this little jar of tablets you can get. It's called Slippery Elm. And I'd pop one of those before the session, and it coats your throat, but it doesn't leave your throat sounding, it doesn't alter your voice in any which way, which is good. And in the process, if I was to potentially injure my voice during a session, just going a little too far, there's a product called, it's from China, and it's called Ninjium. It's like thick molasses, gross tasting, sweet muck. Ugh. But it really is, if you're in the position and you've actually done some vocal damage, it will help repair and get you through that session. A lot of opera singers use this stuff, and I think that's another bag of tricks you need in your back pocket for a session. There's another show I work on. It's a video game called Warhammer 40,000, and again, usually 4 to 6 hour blocks of recording, and then either doing the Space Marines or these orcs. The orcs are like big, deep, huge, meaty sounding things, and they're screaming, and it's all about death, kill, smash. 6 hours of that stuff. Woo, yeah.
And after 6 hours, the enemy's still not dead.
And they still come back. Yeah, it's incredible. But it's really good to have knowledge of what you're going into, so you can make sure you get the vocal warm-up before you go in, and just have some kind of elixir with you at the same time. I find if I want to keep my voice in the higher register, drinking cool water tightens my larynx and I can get higher register. If I want to go into the lower voices, I'll drink warm water to loosen my throat and my larynx to get some of the deeper notes. And if I just want to kind of have something for stamina as I go along, as we were saying last time, some honey and warm water mixed on the side and just sipping on that just kind of keeps things where it should be.
Okay, and speaking about those different voices and registers and stuff, particular question about Masters of the Universe, which was the easiest of the voices? Not necessarily the one you like best.
Yeah. Buzz off. Don't even have to think twice about that. It was kind of almost he was my own range, and he has this clean Eternian, it was just very much just within my own register, so I didn't really have to do anything. The one voice that was the nightmare for me was Seratus, because I was told it was just originally Michael Donovan, who didn't have, I think, a lot of pre-knowledge to the series. He thought it was just going to be maybe a couple of lines in one episode. So I did this voice down in here. And it was all of a sudden this character that kept coming back. And I was just like, oh boy. You got to be careful what you wish for, because in some, if you lay the voice print and they say that's what I want, you've got to have the stamina to continue on doing that voice. And that was one voice that almost tore my throat to pieces. It was crazy. That's why I actually got on with the Ninjum and all that, because I was just like, how am I going to do this? I can't keep this character up. And then some friends pointed me in the direction of that stuff, and it got me through, thankfully.
Mehr?
He-Man.
Okay, if that is not the case, then we'll use the final few moments.
Oh, here we go. Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
So I have no idea what they were.
Oh, he's laughing already.
A few, and this one is, this is German, this would be probably very difficult. So, in the Skeletor voice, I guess it is very legible, so here compliments to you.
Look at this, everyone's got such nice writing.
And, oh yes, the cool water for the higher pitch, okay, good. No honey needed?
No honey tonight in my coffee.
Okay, so...
Okay, so what do we have here? These are all separate lines, and
exactly. So, first sentence.
Once upon a time, in a galaxy far away.
Second.
Are you feeling lucky, punk?
I love
and this belongs to it.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is Clint Eastwood, of course.
Yes, of course.
Are you feeling lucky, punk? Go ahead. Make my day.
I love it, wherever that came from. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's Michael, I think, right?
Everything the light touches is our kingdom.
Oh, a lyrics line.
Another one bites the dust. Another one bites the dust. It's comparison time. For the Horde!
Yeah, Hordak would be very happy. Skeletor wouldn't be.
Well, here's a classic.
Yeah.
Is this thing on? No.
Luke, I am your father.
Yeah, that is a German one. I think this is.
Supertalkai, superfragilistic expialidosis.
That's the English one, yes.
That's it. No, say it in German so I can hear it.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Yeah, pretty close.
Close?
Yeah.
I apologize.
2 or 3 consonants. That's
Okay,
it.
it's
But
close.
German is a very consonant.
Right. Well, it's an amazing
And
language.
then, this is, of course, please, with feeling.
Evelyn, you are my moonlight. I love you!
Wow. Surprise, surprise.
Oh, the one thing that he wanted to.
By the power of Grayskull, I have the power!
You know where that's from, right?
Knock, knock. Penny! Knock, knock. Penny! Knock, knock. Penny!
Oh, this is.
Followed by...
Laugh.
Oh, yes, yes, yes. yes.
Laughter. Mhm.
Pedro is the greatest husband in the world.
Them all.
I alone am best.
Okay.
You must die. I alone am best. I always like the line, Trapjaw, you metallurgical miscreant. Get me that ambrosia, or Eternia won't be mine. Damn.
That's awesome. Thank you very much. This is
Okay,
great,
yeah, and so, yeah. Wenn jemand jetzt noch inspiriert ist, if someone has been struck by inspiration now, wir können ja morgen bei der Verabschiedung durchaus noch ein paar Zeilen nachschieben. Tomorrow when we do the great goodbye thing, we can still put a few lines in.
Absolutely. Anyone wants anything like that, I'd be happy to. Yeah. Oh, can we do a selfie with everybody here? Like you and I stand up and getting one to say what in the background? Here.
Yeah,
Stand up. Stand up. Stand up. Awesome. Thank you.